Okay, looks like there's a few on here. Let's get started. We're right at the hour. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first installment in a series of 4 virtual product tours that we're going to be hosting over the next couple of months for Linkfresh ERP. Now, today's session is going to be all about traceability for the fresh produce industry. Our next webinars are going to cover things like mobile solutions, forecasting and planning, and of course, costings, growers accounting, and the consignment engine that drives the core of Linkfresh ERP. Now, before we get started, just a quick housekeeping note. The microphones are going to be muted throughout the entire session just to avoid background noise. If you do have questions, please do ask them in real time by using the chat function in the window on your interface. We'll personally answer all the questions that you have after the tour. And as a reminder, this session is being recorded for future use. Okay, so for today's agenda, we're going to start with a general introduction of Appian and Linkfresh ERP. We'll then talk a little bit about the Linkfresh ERP platform itself. And then we'll talk a little bit about traceability considerations in today's market. And then, of course, we'll get into the live Linkfresh demonstration and specifically how it manages track and trace, lot control, QC testing, and everything you need to basically digitize your traceability. So with that, a few introductions. My name is Peter Carrero. I am the Linkfresh ERP account manager based here in the UK. Now, as you can probably tell from my accent, I am from the States initially, but to be clear, I do reside and work here in the beautiful English countryside. I'm joined today, as you can see, by James Rogers. James is our lead solutions consultant and technical expert, who's going to be showing you the system firsthand and guiding us through an overview of Linkfresh's capabilities and functionality around traceability. Now, as some of you may already know, I think the majority of you may have heard, Appian joined forces with Linkfresh ERP in 2019 as part of our mission to become the #1 technology provider to the food industry. So at a high level, Appian's core mission is all about moving businesses forward through technology and digitalization. And we do this by developing purpose-built solutions designed specifically for industries. So in the food industry, for example, we have a suite of specialized ERPs all built on Microsoft Dynamics that are designed for their sub-verticals. The fresh produce vertical, for example, Linkfresh ERP is that flagship solution. Now, what this means is that Linkfresh has the bulk of investment in things like R&D and product development. Now, as a global technology company, Appian does have physical offices all over the world, and we have an international reach that extends all the way to the farming level in places like South Africa, Australia, all over the Americas, and of course throughout EMEA. So combined with our other suites, our other suite of ERP solutions, again built on Microsoft, we work with over 900 food and beverage customers worldwide. Here on the map, you'll see a few central offices for us. So with this, we'll talk a little bit about the Linkfresh platform and that shared vision with Microsoft that you heard me mention previously. Here we have a graphic that I think does a good job of depicting the Linkfresh platform itself and the accessibility that the power of Microsoft Dynamics provides. So a fresh produce focus and expertise coupled with Microsoft's vision of a scalable and evergreen platform positions Linkfresh as the future-proof ERP within the fresh produce industry. And we're very proud of that. As you can also see in the graphic, our suite of ERP solutions, including Linkfresh, have seamless connectivity to much deeper functionality through extensions and connectors. So as part of the Appian family of solutions, Linkfresh ERP also offers that additional value and reach beyond standard ERP. And we do that with integrations to our supply chain systems, plant management systems, and compliance tools. So these are the value-added modules you see on the right side of the graphic. Now, for customers, just as an example, with customers that have, let's say, extensive fleets of vehicles, we can expand those logistics capabilities by providing delivery, route optimization, and transport management, simply by plugging in our Paragon TMS system. For those of you, let's say, with heavier processing, or more complex manufacturing that requires a deeper visibility with shop floor data capture, we also offer a standard integration to Aptean's factory MES solution. And of course, for those of you, let's say with highly automated pack houses or highly automated plant floors that have extensive engineering requirements, by the same token, we plug in our API Pro asset management system, and that list goes on. Okay, let's move into traceability, the topic that we're here to look at within Linkfresh. Now, of course, you can't start a conversation about traceability without addressing that #1 reason that companies typically implement track and trace technology, and that is managing recalls and passing audits. Now, I imagine that everyone on this webinar understands the financial impact and the risk that recalls involve. So we're not going to spend much time on recent news articles or talking about those businesses that have had to pay the ultimate consequences. Instead, we like to focus on the additional value beyond compliance. So the value to the bottom line that a good traceability system provides, and of course the benefits that Linkfresh ERP customers gain from that very data that provides their farm to fork traceability. But I'm talking about things like improved supply chain efficiencies, reduced costs, reduced operational costs, and increased customer satisfaction, just to name a few. So better time critical supply chain management can be leveraged from traceability data through a system like Linkfresh. Improved inventory management, stock rotation, things like shrink control and better trend forecasting provide real value and ROI off the back of a good traceability and record keeping system. Operational cost reductions can easily be achieved through data insights into bottlenecks or hidden inefficiencies throughout your supply chain. So a system like Linkfresh can give you that full visibility end to end to identify areas for improved efficiency and boosts in margins. And we pair that with real-time reporting and BI analytics. And of course, customer satisfaction. The market's becoming increasingly competitive. I think you're all experiencing that. And customer satisfaction is everything. So having a firm grasp of your supply chain data and digital traceability really improves your ability to forecast and meet demands, increase OTIF, optimize your scheduling, and of course, reduce those traceability exercises and audits from hours to minutes. Now, another trend that we're seeing in the industry, just from discussions with customers and different businesses like yourselves alike, is that the market is changing quite drastically, and individuals are becoming increasingly aware of environmental and social issues. And I'm sure you're seeing that. Things like sustainability, responsible farming, fair trade, these things are all at the forefront of today's consumer trends. And folks like yourselves, growers, buyers, packers, have to be increasingly or are increasingly being held accountable for where and how your products are being managed. Now, a good traceability system can not only help ensure that responsible sourcing and keep it compliant, but it can also be used as a competitive advantage. So some Linkfresh customers, for example, have enabled consumers to quote unquote meet the grower, just as a quick example, and they do this through QR code scanning on every product that ties back to Linkfresh data. So I think it's fair to say, as consumers become more demanding of information and more demanding of visibility, that need for technology to manage your traceability is becoming more apparent with every year. And lastly, I know we started off by saying that traceability isn't only about compliance, but I think we're all seeing that regulatory bodies are certainly looking for advanced ways to improve food safety and better be able to respond more rapidly to outbreaks and things of that nature. So initiatives are in place to expand on the standard one back, one forward methodology through tech-enabled traceability. A good example is the FDA back in the States last year announced their new era of smarter food safety. And if you look through that initiative, you'll see that it is extremely tech heavy, and it really focuses on that aspect of it as the future. Now, with Linkfresh ERP, you can certainly be rest assured that you are ahead of the curve as those initiatives and those policies evolve. So at the same time, bear in mind, you'll be reaping the benefits to the bottom line. All right, so with that, we'll get into the fun stuff. I'm now going to hand it over to James Rogers to lead us into the Linkfresh system for a bit of a deeper look, specifically to traceability. Again, keep those questions coming. I see a couple. keep those coming in real time, and we will address them towards the end. James, if you're ready.
I am. Thanks, Pete. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Hi. So hopefully you can see my screen. So good afternoon, everybody. Hello. So as Pete said, welcome to this first in a series of presentations to introduce you to Linkfresh. So I'm going to talk you through various functions and features in the product. My name is James Rogers. I'm a solution consultant with Aptian, and I've worked with food ERP for some 20 years plus now. I just want to start with a few concepts and messages that I've learnt with my time with Linkfresh before we get to the software, just a minute or two. Now, all of these sessions are aiming to show how we've taken the standard Business Central ERP, enhanced it, and added the language of fresh. There's a few bullet points there showing the sort of things we're going to see today and over the coming sessions. The second big bullet point there is to impose rigor on the inventory processes. So in my opinion, a Linkfresh customer really does have the opportunity to adopt the Linkfresh standards that have been built up over many years with many customers. So in terms of managing the inventory, making sure stock is in the right place at the right time, I believe that's a really powerful message to get across. And then the final bullet point there is there's very tight margins in fresh produce, really tight margins. And of course, we know very short shelf life stock, very perishable. So our customers really do need to keep track of costs, and they really do need to move the goods really quickly to avoid any unnecessary waste in order to maximize that profitability by SKU. And we're going to build up over these sessions to session 4, where I'm going to talk in detail about profitability, so profitability by SKU. One more slide on concepts before we get to the software. What I want to point out here is the various business models that we can support. So the first question there, this really does have a big impact on the setup of the software and what you'd be interested in seeing. First question is, who owns the stock? Is it our customer who owns the stock and they actually pay the vendor for the produce, or are they simply performing a service and the stock remains owned by the third party? So is it the blue one? Is it the red one? Who owns the stock? Maybe actually it's a combination of both. And then next, what are the operational flows? I'm not going to try and explain all of these in detail, but what I've been taught is to identify which of these processes fit with our customers or prospects. I think Teams is closed. And maybe indeed they fit into more than one. This one here, BiPAC sell. This is a phrase. BiPAC sell is a phrase I literally hear probably 20 times a day at Linkfresh. So I've taken BiPAC sell as a place to start and work out from there. So my point here is we, as Linkfresh consultants, we look to identify the business model right at the start of any project. It's really important. So what we're going to see today, we're talking about traceability. I'm going to do it via the back office software today. Session 2, we're going to see real-time devices with scanning and barcodes. So this is setting the scene, traceability. I'm going to talk about the produce attributes that Linkfresh have built in. I'm going to describe pallet IDs and how they impact the system. I'm going to talk about QC blocking and the QC module. I'm going to go through the process of BiPAC sell, where we're going to place a purchase order, receive it, put it away, consume it and transform it into a finished product, and then sell that finished product. And finally, I'm going to do the traceability via this concept that we call a consignment engine. The worked example that I'm going to use is that of oranges that you can see to the right-hand side. So let's go over to the software. Just take a little drink. Right. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Business Central itself, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to describe Linkfresh and, of course, Business Central. So when you first launch, you are presented with the role center, so which you can see here, where you can see metrics, you can see tiles, you can see lists, and obviously this is designed to help you with your role in the business. So it's a very modern interface. It's absolutely the style of interface, the style of look and feel that you would expect, you should expect in 2020. So it's role based. So if you log on as the finance manager, you're going to see a role center that relates to finance. Log on as a customer service manager, you're going to see sales related information and so on. So I'm looking here at a general business manager role. So I'm seeing a collection of data across the system. It's very easy to change role, providing you've got permission. So I can simply come up here and I've got permission to a number of different roles. If I wanted to switch roles, I've got permission, so I'm allowed to switch roles. Personalization of the role center is achievable. So if I want to add a tile to the role center, or maybe I want to color code one of these tiles based on the underlying data, make it go red, amber, or green, providing I've got permission, I'm able to do that. Anywhere where you see a number, as you would expect, you can click on the number. So I've clicked on those 24 sales orders just there. Just talk you through this this list that we see in front of us. I can expand and contract the list. There's only 24 orders on here, but on a real system, you could expect maybe hundreds of sales orders in this example. So I can open and close a toggle pane to the left of the form. I can right click and choose which columns I want to show and hide. So an example of personalization there. And I can sequence the sequence of columns by clicking on the column heading. And final thing here, I can toggle open and close to the right-hand side, what they call a fact box. So what we see here is I've got an order for O'Malley Farm Shop highlighted. So I'm seeing summarized sales data for O'Malley Farm Shop as a customer. If I roll down and select maybe Owl and Pussycat, the fact box to the right changes to give me that summarized data for Owl and Pussycat. Now this list, this concept of a facts box with being able to minimize and maximize, that's consistent throughout the entire system. And again, just to relate, just to say that is absolutely the style and aesthetic that you should expect from an ERP system in 2020. Okay, so off to Linkfresh now. So I'm going to go to items and I'm going to search for my raw material, which is my oranges that are coming in effectively in a dough, kind of loose, if you like. Now, I'm not going to try and talk you through all the different fields at the top. Broadly, what Linkfresh have done is added options to the right-hand side of menus and added data sets to the bottom of forms. So I'm scrolling down past the standard BC fields to get to the Linkfresh forms, where I'm going to talk to you about these produce attributes and I'm going to talk to you about these QC blocking parameters. We can see a number of different attributes here: grade, size, country of origin, that sort of thing. The one I want to focus on is produce variety. So I'm going to expand that out to see the different options that I've got. I've got various different varieties, of two of which are related to orange. Just to point out, I could, if I want to, just be presented with the varieties of orange if I chose to. It's just the way I've set the data up. Now, these produce attributes, they really do have an impact on the behavior of the software. So we're looking at the item card here. So we're looking at the available options and the defaults for the item. The default that I've got for my orange is a Valencia orange. I've also got a Novell orange. These attributes get inherited ultimately onto the lot, the actual lot of stock that you have on your inventory system. So I might have two lots. I might have one for Novell and one for Valencia. The attributes get inherited onto the operational document and then subsequently confirmed against the actual lots that get booked into stock. The best way I found to describe that is, let's say you're performing a sales order fulfillment to a general wholesaler. He may not have a preference on what type of orange, what variety of orange that he takes. But if you were selling maybe to a chef who absolutely has a preference, then maybe he has a preference for Valencia oranges. When you raise the sales order, you can specify that he wants a Valencia orange. And when you try and scan or fulfill that order, the system will impose the fact that he wants a Valencia orange. In a letter system, in Linkfresh, the way you would set that up is you would need 2 SKUs. You would need a SKU for the Valencia and a SKU for the Novell. To satisfy the chef, that you would need the 2 SKUs. You'd raise a sales order for the Valencia, for the chef, and then for the wholesaler, you would specify a general orange, and you would need to make them alternatives to each other. So in a lesser system than Linkfresh, you would need an awful lot more SKUs, or in Business Central speak, an awful lot more items. And providing that ERP provides the ability to do alternatives, you do all that configuration. So what Linkfresh is very simply added these produce attributes that get inherited onto the lot, which takes away all the setup of what could be literally dozens, if not hundreds, of different items. I'm hoping that makes sense in terms of the produce attributes. If we look at the QC parameters down here, ultimately the QC blocking process is going to apply a block to either, using this drop down, either individual pallets or the entire lot, which normally would consist of maybe 26 pallets that have come in on a vehicle. So at what level are you applying a block? Individual pallets, a whole bunch of pallets, i.e. a lot, and at what point of the process are you applying that block? So you can see here I've selected to block purchase. So when I receive stock in from a vendor, it's going to have a block applied, which I need to remove. I could, if I chose to, say that if I transfer out my stock out to a second location, or when it comes out of production, or indeed when it's getting picked to go for dispatch to a sales order, I'm going to apply blocks at each one of those process steps. So again, this is about understanding the processes, imposing that rigor on our customers. So that's enough about the item card. So let's go back to the role center. I'm going to go to purchasing, and I'm going to go to purchase orders, where I'm going to create myself a new purchase order. It's coming in from a vendor called Railway Farms. It's coming in today. I'm going to specify that I want an item. I'm going to search for my item, which is my oranges, RMO1A. You can see those produce attributes have been inherited at this point. If I wanted to, I can change them. I'm booking it into Dartford, and I'm going to order 1,200 kilograms. I then release the purchase order, which creates me a warehouse receipt record for when the goods arrive. That would typically send a message off to the vendor to place the order, and I can then navigate to the warehouse receipt lines, ultimately to the document, and then I can use Linkfresh's concept of introducing the concept of pallets to the system. So again, we see to the right of the menu, Linkfresh functionality. I'm going to go to Pallet Builder, where we can auto create our pallets, where we can see I'm expecting 300 kilos on each pallet. I've ordered 1,200, so the system's calculated that we should be expecting 4 pallets. I can change that if I want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to click and process. It's automatically generated me 4 new pallet IDs. It's generated me a lot number for the delivery, and I can click OK, and I can process, and I can post my receipt. That's booked the stock into the system. Potentially printed out labels if I've got a label printer attached, which you will see in session 2. And the purchase order is then ready to either pay or move through to what we'll see later on, the grower return. hopefully that makes sense. The next form that I'm going to call up, again, Linkfresh functionality, pallet management. It's kind of the go-to form, if you like, for looking at what you have in stock, what you have on hand inventory that you're holding. Classic view, filters at the top, list at the bottom, filters on the left hand side, fact box on the right if you want it. I'm going to look for my RM01A product, where we can see the 4 pallets at the bottom that I've just booked in. If I scroll to the right, we can see that they're in the intake bin, and we can see that we've got a QC block that's been applied to these 4 pallets. So if I would try to issue these pallets to a sales order, to sell them to a customer, consume them as a production order, right now, 2 reasons it wouldn't let me use these pallets or scan these pallets: this QC block and the fact that it's in the intake bin. So again, we're imposing the rigor on the process. We have to A, locate the bin into storage, locate it into a storage bin, and we have to B, release the QC block. I could do it either way round. For the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to firstly release the QC block. Now, the way I'm going to do that because I need to get through this within the allotted time, I'm going to do this by simply, because I've got permission, I'm going to do this by simply deleting the block. It's fully audited. There's a table that shows you who, when, and what happened in terms of releasing, deleting blocks. Ideally, what you would use is the Linkfresh QC module, and I'll just briefly talk you through the concept of the Linkfresh QC module. Just using this menu to start with, the QC module, you set up a list of properties. So they're tests. They're kind of a check for mold. They're a check for firmness. It could be they're a check for size or some sort of inspection check. A set of QC properties. A set of QC properties you then assemble together in terms of a QC template. You then assign the QC template to your item. And then when inventory hits the system, you then take a test batch, you record the results against the test batch. If it's in spec, then the QC block is deleted. If you want to ask a question, if anybody wants to see that, we can do that in a follow-up session. Just to dwell on a point, I'm merely going to delete this block for the purposes of time. So I then close that. The QC block is now dropped to 0. It's still sat in the intake process, intake bin. So I'm going to multi-select my pallets. I'm going to go process and transfer these to my ambient storage location 2. And I'm going to process and post the transfer lines. Come back. My stock is now sat in my ambient storage location 2. I could have done that, like with Business Central. There's various ways of doing different things. I could have gone to my warehouse put away record and done it via the warehouse put away. Session 2, you'll see how I can do it real time using the scanner. That stock is now ready and available to use in my my production order. So to move on, I'll just go back to my diagram to show you where we are. We've talked about the item attributes. I've gone through the purchase order, done the warehouse receipt, released the block, and put the stock away. We're now going into this area here where I'm going to transform the stock from raw loose oranges into packed cases of 48 by means of a released production order. So I'm going to search for my transaction that I'm looking for, and I'm looking for, as I say, released production orders. I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to base my production order, my transformation of stock on my cases of 48. I'm going to produce 150 cases. If I process and refresh the production order, and I click here to see the components, we should see that I'm going to consume 900 kilos of the 1200 that I've booked in. And to repeat, I'm doing everything today via the back office. Session 2, we're going to see how this would be done via the Linkfresh touchscreen app. I'm going to go to production journal, where I'm going to say I did indeed consume 900 kilos of the oranges. And if I go to Linkfresh and pallet selector, where I can see, scroll down, I can see my my 4 pallets which are sat in the ASO2. I'm going to select 3 of those pallets to make up my 900 kilos and press OK. And for my output, I'm going to say, yes, I did indeed produce 150 cases of finished product. I go to Linkfresh functions, this time pallet builder. So for the consumption, it was pallet selector. For the output, it's pallet builder. I'm creating pallets, auto create the pallets. It's going to be 5 pallets of 30. I click OK. I click OK and process and post the journal. That's going to deplete and consume my pallets of loose and create and output my 5 pallets of finished product. So we've successfully posted the journal. The inventory levels would have moved. Final thing with this production order, I'm going to change the status to finished and say, all right, that job is now finished. And we should be ready to sell our produce. How are we doing for time? 20 minutes is fine. So I've gone through the booking in process. I've transformed the stock using a production order. Next thing is to sell the finished product. So I go to sales, I go to sales orders, I go to new. I'm going to sell some of this product to a company called Arthur David Wholesale. I go into my item. I'm selling finished goods, which is my cases of 24. To repeat on the produce, if I wanted to specify a variety at this point, I could. So if Arthur David was that chef who specifically wanted that variety, I could specify it there. I'm going to fulfill this order out of Dartford, and I'm going to sell them, bear with me, 90 cases. I'm happy with the order. I'm going to release it, which is going to create me a warehouse shipment record, which I'm going to navigate to the warehouse shipment document. This step in session 2 in real time will be done via a handheld device. So I'll be scanning labels that have been applied through the production process. I'm going to go to my functions, Linkfresh. I'm selecting pallets, I'm picking pallets to send out to the customer. So I'll go to the Linkfresh pallet selector. And if I scroll down, I should see my I should see my 5 pallets of output. There was some from a demo I did this morning. The Arthur's ordered 90 cases, so I'm going to select 3 of these pallets and click OK. Real time, I'll be scanning. I'm going to post the shipment. I'm going to ship and invoice the goods to Arthur David, and there we go. That's the order effectively fulfilled. We should now be able to start to perform the traceability process. So in order to do that, I'm just going to introduce you to a concept that we're going to see through this series of webinars, and that's the Linkfresh concept of a consignment. The way I look at a consignment record, it's effectively an extension of a purchase order. I talked at the beginning about tracking costs. We're going to talk later on about grower returns and paying those growers for the goods that have turned up. It's all based around this concept of a consignment. It's effectively an extension of a purchase order, of a warehouse receipt, or indeed a collection of purchase orders or warehouse receipts. The one we've been looking at is consignment 49. we can see that we've traded 45% of it. So I booked in 1,200 kilos. I transformed 900 of those kilos. I subsequently sold 150 cases. If I click on my consignment record, to repeat, I am going to come back to this later in the series. I'll go to, traceability, and I go to item traceability. What we can see is all the detail of what we've just transacted. We've got the purchase order coming in from Railway Farms. We've got the consumption and output against the production job, and ultimately we've got the sale shipment going out to Arthur David. Now, just finish off by just returning back to my PowerPoint. The way I've worked with traceability a lot over the years, and the way I visualize it, it's a bit like the branches of a tree. You know, stock comes in maybe on a Monday. You might receive 26 pallets coming in on a Monday. Monday afternoon, you may perform a packing exercise to pack that off into cases of 24, cases of 48, maybe cases of 25 kilos and 10 kilos. So they're subsequent branches of a tree, which then may be subsequently sold to Arthur David and his friends. So it's a bit like branches of a tree. They're expanding out as you go through that process. And this ultimately is what this grid is trying to show. You know, in reality, in a real process, this would be a lot more data. But for simplicity, just to get the concept across, I hope you can understand what I'm showing you there. So there we are. Hopefully I made sense. We've gone through all the various things that I wanted to show you using these oranges. And with that, I'm gonna finish off and hand it back to Pete. And hopefully you can rejoin me for session 2, where we're going to do much the same thing, introduce a few new concepts, and we're going to see the touchscreens and handhelds and barcode scans. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, James. Good stuff. Okay, so going through a couple of the questions, there's a handful here. Looks like a lot of them are customer specific. So for the customers on the line, we will answer these directly on a personal level there. Hopefully this gives you a good glimpse into the latest version of Linkfresh and the interface. Happy to have conversations here in the road. For those of you that are not customers yet, also thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully this gives you a quick glimpse into some of the functionality and the capabilities behind Linkfresh ERP. James and I are more than happy to have a deeper dive. Appreciate this is a short product tour. Hopefully you can join us for the future ones as well. And like I said, looking forward to speaking with everyone for the next one. Stay tuned for those invites. I think they should be coming out. So with that, thanks again, everybody. Stay safe.